Okay, hello folks. Today we have this alder tree that's got a heavy lean on it. Hopefully you can see that in the video. There's a lot of weight at the end of the branches and it's leaning hard. I don't think it's going to get caught up in this hazel, but the plan is to try and fell it today. Basically these branches are too low and they want to come through with horses, and when you're on a horse you're obviously higher and you hit the branches. So and I was going to take, it's either take the branch off or take the whole tree down, and I'm personally going to say take the tree down just because of the lean of it. It's it's not the safest for going underneath and the paths here, so I think felling it's going to be our best option. Now there's this little hazel here which it might get caught in a bit, but this is only a small hazel, so it probably will just break through anything that it catches on. The plan is to sort of just pop it down here as much as possible. I think it will just drop down pretty much exactly where it is. I'm not going to be able to sway which way it goes very much because of the amount of weight that's coming this way, but it will come to the floor. That's the main thing. As you can see, very hard lean, so this is pretty much on the floor. Now some people will say just do a undercut and a top cut and just stump jump it off, and that does work, and usually with a tree with this severe lean it's almost just a branch and you could probably do that. But because of where the compression is on this tree, it is holding itself up very nicely. It's not hung up in anything, it is upright. There's going to be some interesting compression at the stump, so what I'm going to do is do a small notch, although don't technically need one because it's just so leaning. I'm going to put one in anyway, just to give it a little bit of a sway. Put that in. We're then going to bore cut through the tree, hopefully, get this fully, as good as we can. Bore cut through the tree, come to the back of the tree, and then sort of leave a little trigger, and then cut it. There's loads of videos on YouTube on how to do it. I'm not an expert on how to do this. I've done it once before, so second time, let's see how well it goes. The idea is that with a tree like this that's on such a heavy lean, is they're some of the most dangerous trees because they're very susceptible to barber chair. This one not so much because it is such a severe lean. If it was slightly further up it'd be even worse. It could be really, really dangerous. It's very dangerous as it is, but slightly less dangerous I think because it's just going to fall on the floor. But they can actually split all the way up the tree. It's what's called barber chairing, where it splits at the cut you make, and the back of the tree goes first because there's so much compression there, and it flies up 20 foot into the air, and the rest of the tree comes down on the floor, and it's could potentially fatal if you're in the way of that. So yeah, that's the plan. We have the 372 today, so yeah, we're going to see if we can take this tree down. I've got a 24-inch bar on here, so pretty long bar, very small tree. That's kind of what you want. This is not a long bar as such, it's sort of like it's the shortest you really want to go for big trees, but it's big enough it'll do this really easily. I have a small chainsaw that's got a short bar, and that would do this too, but this is going to make it easier because you can obviously actually see once the bar's through very easily with the bore cut. So yeah, we're going to give this a go. I'm just going to grab some gloves for myself here. There we go. We're on the floor, still on the hinge a little bit, and that's just because the end of this is kinked up, so this is taking all of the weight of the tree. That's basically how you do it. That's not a too bad one, to be honest. You can see where we just bored in, went and checked where we were, took a bit of the hinge, and the tree actually started to pop off before. And that's where we knew, and it's just because it's such a small diameter of tree and it's quite a big bar, there wasn't much work to do. So once we were through and we had ball cutted, we brought the ball cut out, left this trigger on the back, and we just took the trigger, and it didn't barber chair for us, and you can see where this is actually split off from here as the trees come down, and because that's where the two cuts were, we didn't barber chair. I mean, it was not going to go anywhere else but down, and that's quite a complicated cut, but that only took a few minutes to do. Right, so I just tidied this area up with the chainsaw, cleared up everything and made a big pile, and we're now going to make this into logs. I think earlier I said this was an alder tree. I was wrong, it is a goat's willow tree, which is quite funny. I did actually know that it was, I just said the wrong word, but there you go. But that actually means there's even more reason to do one of these bore cuts. And here's the cut up close. I actually haven't showed this yet, but you can actually see where we've got the trigger piece here. There's our trigger cut, there's our bore cut, and our face cut is obviously down here, where it's actually shut down because it's actually sitting at the moment on the very tip over there. And the idea is that basically we do that, and I mean, essentially, if I just done my face cut, and I mean, you don't even really need one because it's always going to go that way, obviously. But if we just come straight through the back here, the idea is this bit is trying to release very quickly because the tree's at such an acute angle. There's so much weight pushing down like that. But what would happen is is if you just cut through here all the way down to the hinge, is this piece where this little bit of this little bit of hinge wood here would actually split off first, fly up into the air, and it can go, you know, split all the way up the stem of the tree. But because we've already cut up to the hinge with the bore cut, it means that this bit's already released, so the actual tension is only here, so it all comes down in one. That's the idea. And you can find videos on YouTube of a barber chairing tree, and you can see where it pops out and splits all the way up, and it doesn't look good at all, and you know that it's gone wrong. You know, it's always on those chainsaw fail compilations that always give you a bit of anxiety. But there you go, that's kind of how you do that and how you stop the barber chair from happening. Yeah, but it's an alright cut, and particularly with willow, you kind of do want to do these cuts anyway, because willow, you know that you can use it to make like wicker baskets and things like that. So it's very bendy and easy to move, but it means when it gets to this sort of size, it can become quite brittle, and more likely to barber chair and split. So it's good that we did that bore cut. It's, you know, just a safety thing, and it stops the tree from you know, splitting in two. Anyway, we'll chop this up now, and I've actually left this piece on the ground. And obviously the idea is that we don't want to be cutting the ground with the chainsaw. So if we can keep the tree off the ground, then it's obviously going to be a lot better. So we'll basically just start logging up into sections, and yeah, that'll be the job done. Right, so I'm going to clean up the stump now. I just thought I'd show you. You can do this with any saw. I'm going to bore cut through with my other chainsaw, a little chainsaw. This is a 12-inch bar, so pretty much the smallest you're going to want to go to cut this sort of wood. Most people have 14-inch bars at sort of minimum. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how you'd bore cut through with a shorter bar if you were doing this same process. And essentially, with a bore cut, all you're doing is you're just dropping the nose of the saw into the wood, and then you're just going to push through until it pokes out the end. You'll notice with this one, it actually does just about get to the end of the wood, but you would be very hard to see that when you're doing the cut. So you're better off coming to the other side of the tree, dropping the nose in again from this side, and bore cutting through and meeting your cuts, which you can do with a shorter bar. So if you do have a short bar and you have a big tree and you can't see the end of your bore cut, you just come to the side, and I'll show you. You can cut down bits of wood with this little saw. This is an 023C. I'll show you, this will do the trick. There you go. You saw before I chopped those bits down, you'd have saw that I used the saw to do a bore cut. But what I actually find quite interesting here, and I just noticed this, is the rest of the tree wasn't like this. Sorry there. The rest of the tree wasn't like this, but this actually has a hole in the centre of it at the base, which maybe that's why this is slightly uprooted, which is interesting. But I love this little chainsaw here, these 023C. It is remarkable. There's not many modern chainsaws. This is not commercial, by the way. It's literally just a little, as they call, sort of a homeowner saw. You know, it's a domestic chainsaw. You got like a plastic crankcase, plastic fuel tank, everything's plastic. But they're just built really well. I've done a conversion on this. It used to be an 023C with the easy adjustment here, which I replaced for like this more professional one, which I've actually got a side tensioner as well. So this is off, I think, an 025, which is still not commercial, but it's a little bit beefier. I think it's 45cc. This is 40cc on the dot. So it's a 40cc saw with a little 12-inch bar. And because it's such a nice little small little bar and lots of power, it rips, it really does. And I've cut some really massive timber with this, where I've just gone all the way around the wood, because recently that's a 372 XP, it's been playing up a little bit. I've had to replace the fuel line, had a hole in it, and it was causing lots of issues. So that's basically was out of action for a bit, and I needed to get a couple of jobs done. So I used the little 023C to do some chunkier bits. It was beech wood, and it actually did a really nice job of it, considering it is only a diddy little saw. It's basically baby Stihl. And it's like, we call it like the baby Stihl 026, what's it, 261, which obviously that's like the new big 50cc saw. This is basically like a baby 261. But it does a great job. I believe it has the same recoil handle as like an MS 660, which is quite funny, because it's like the comfort model. They were like, we're going to put this massive recoil handle on it, Elasco start, which is quite cool. But it's like, this is like the prime year, I think, of Stihl, when they were O series. I'd love to get like an 026, which is the bigger brother commercial version of this machine, or like an 024, obviously is the commercial version, but I'd like an 026 50cc saw would be really nice. And I want to get a 261, but I'm also thinking that, you know, that has an electronic carb. This is just an ordinary old-fashioned Walbro carburetor. There's no electronics or anything. It just, you know, you pull the cord, it goes, it does its thing. But I mean, look at this exhaust pipe. There's literally, I don't think there's even a spark arrestor on these. It literally just, it goes straight out into the exhaust pipe and out. It's very easy. So it means that it's got a lot of power for such a small little saw. And also, because it's the C, it has a decomp, which is quite funny because it's 40cc. You definitely don't need a decomp, but it's got one. Seen a lot this little chainsaw, but it just cuts really nicely when it's sharp like that, and it will cut through stuff like this. Absolutely loves it. And it's really lightweight. I think it's actually lighter than a 261, or about the same weight as a 261, but there's the chassis of it. It's very short and stubby. It's a very short, stubby chassis, so it means that when you're running it, it feels very ergonomic, which I do really like. And it's a lot better than any other homeowner saw that I've used. And I did a video comparing it to a Husky recently, which you can find on the channel. And this thing's actually, now I've actually sharpened the chain really nicely. It's like proper cutting nice. But in that video, it basically, I've always found it doesn't look like on the video. It's only a couple of seconds between it and I think it's a 136 I had. But in real life, this thing is just a lot better. That 136, just everything about it. Like, this has an inboard clutch on it, like all the Stihls do, which is basically, you know, the 372 has an inboard clutch, and I much prefer it. It's so much easier to work on. You just pop it off, grease it, put it back on again, grease the bar up, just chuck everything back on, chuck the nuts in, side tension it up, then you start her up and you go rip. The Husky, tensioner was here. You cannot change that. It has to be tensioned from here because it's got an outboard clutch. You can't grease the outboard clutches because on that specific one, it didn't even have the hole in the crankshaft to be able to grease down because it was before they put that in. So you had the only way to grease it was to put a piston stop in, remove the whole clutch housing, and then grease the needle bearing. So massive pain. To get the bar and chain on, you had to sort of fiddle with it and try and get it round there. I just didn't like it, and I mean, that's obviously like the most bottom range from like 20 years ago, but like this is almost bottom range. It's a little bit above bottom range, and it just cuts so much better. And I think that in small CC class saws Stihl is better, just for that easiness of the clutch, and the weight of it. It just feels, in my opinion, it's more ergonomic. But for the big saws, I'm going to say Husky, but there are some really nice big Stihls as well out there, you know, like the 500i and stuff that just blow everything away. But that is a lovely chainsaw. I love the 372. If there's one thing, it is slightly unreliable. I have had to repair stuff on it. I've actually had to do less to this and more to that, and I actually use this more because it's so small and lightweight, and what I cut isn't the biggest at the moment. You know, like this is sort of the biggest diameter stuff I'm cutting, so I could have done this whole job today with this little saw. But 372, the 372 was running nice, so got to use the big girl. Yeah, but it doesn't have, you know, it has a lot of power. When it's running, it's the nicest chainsaw to use, but it's when it's running, you know, it's one of those. But there you are. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. This wasn't a tutorial video, although I did explain what I was doing. It's more of just like, you know, identifying, you know, the lean of it, and, you know, if you're doing this, then, you know, maybe you found this interesting. And I'm sure there's loads of other ways to do this, and this may not be the safest way, but I find this way works. And yeah, it gets the tree on the floor. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.